Now, looking ahead towards next week, there are a lot of tech earnings coming out there. And speaking of which, we did hear about Microsoft, and they're cutting off about 18,000 jobs over the next year. When it comes to a big company like that, especially with news like this, are we going to hear more from their announcement? What are you looking towards with them?
Absolutely. I want to hear what is going to be the impact, financial impact, as well as business impact from those layoffs. You know, it kind of struck me. I saw a headline cross the tape when that announcement was made. It's very appropriate. Microsoft is no longer Mr. Softy. I mean, CEO Nadella is definitely putting a stamp on a company. He's got some business lines that he needs to shake up, if not shed, redirect. So we're going to hear a lot about that. I also want to hear about existing business, though. What are they doing in the enterprise area? What do they believe will be the impact of the Windows 9 operating system, which they're packaging and bringing out now? And ultimately, the reason that they're doing most of these layoffs is the Nokia acquisition. What's going to happen with the phone business right now? I mean, they've not made a real go of that yet, and it's been a drag on earnings, and that's a legacy from Steve Ballmer. So Nadella has the flexibility to say, you know what, it's not in our core operating structure, it's not in our strategic business line. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if he does the layoffs and then sheds the business altogether.
Right. And also speaking of which, when it comes to Apple, it's always news, especially when you go ahead towards the fall. What phones are they going to release? Another iPad?
They usually leave the new product announcements to their big and glorious special shows that they do in, pardon me, in San Francisco. But Apple's been on the move, quietly, kind of on the radar, on the move. The news this week about their strategic relationship with IBM, so that they're now even going to be putting more out there into the enterprise lines of business as opposed to retail. But there's also projections that the next iteration of their operating system inside of the iPhone 5 has sold 38 million units in this quarter. I mean, that's just a blowout quarter when you have companies like Samsung that are complaining that their new sales are actually lagging a little bit in this quarter. Apple seems to be trumping them on that score. They may say something about the iPhone 6, but you know, Apple is always very good at managing the expectations of the street, typically, and then they come in and they just blow the projections and the expectations out of the water. I expect to see the same thing from them next week.
Moving over to Facebook, people always want to talk about, with those social media companies, the mobile ad growth. Is that still kind of the big thing with them you're looking towards?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about digital ads. The trajectory for digital ads has gotten almost parabolic at this point. Google, by the way, is still the undisputed leader in that space. But Facebook, Google's share actually has been shrinking on digital ad content, not mobile ad content, but digital ad content, while Facebook has been going up. And Facebook and Google have both added revenue on the mobile side of things. So that was the big complaint about Facebook. You may recall 3 quarters ago, they seem to have rectified that situation. The big thing with Facebook is all about how are they acquiring new users onto the platform and how are they retaining new users onto the platform. I wish they'd break out some metrics about new users per quarter and how many have dropped off. I think that would give the analysts a little bit better opportunity to revise and refine their models a little bit. But listen, Facebook is, they're a moneymaker. They've captured the imagination of the world. They've got a platform that's somewhat unique to other social media companies. The biggest headwind that they could face, again, is that even though the trajectory is parabolic at this point, does it start to level off all of a sudden due to some unforeseen economic hit? And also, it seems like to their stock price, the other headwind is Janet Yellen, if she's complaining about overvaluation of social media names. But I think we'll hear a very good quarter out of them as well. Amazon is, Amazon is not going to turn a profit. We already know that. So what we really look for, the metric that everybody looks for, is their year-on-year revenue growth. Some channel checking, if you will. They don't have bricks and mortar stores, but some early channel checks suggest that they're going to have 24% to 25% year-on-year revenue growth, which is outstanding. I also want to hear from Amazon. I doubt Jeff Bezos will say anything about it, but I'd be very curious to hear what their thinking is and how they're going to combat the new competitor that's about to hit the market in a great way, and that's Alibaba. They're trying to hit Alibaba on their own shores, but it's very difficult inside of China. You know, there's regulatory provisions which make homegrown Chinese companies dominant monopolistic players, and that's the way the Chinese government wants it. I also want to hear from Amazon what is the growth and the breakout of really their main businesses, meaning their store for third parties, their own proprietary products like the Kindle and the Fire Phone, what they're doing on the data center level, those types of things. And I think it'd also be curious to hear what kind of approvals they're getting from the FAA on their drone program. I think that'd be interesting. And more importantly, what it means to the bottom line for them. I think it'll be a tremendous upshot. Think about it, if you can order a product, they have these distribution centers and it arrives at your door in 5 minutes from a drone. That will beat the competition and probably put most brick and mortar stores well and truly out of their misery once and for all.